evening. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. says he does not want war but vows to capacitate the armed forces of the Philippines amid an external threat. Marcos says the government will provide the military with the necessary resources, training, and equipment to improve its effectiveness. According to Marcos, the country is not seeking war with anyone, but instead, the country is merely on the defense, ready to defend the country. Marcos adds it is important to think about the external threat, which has a different strategy to employ. The president assures the soldiers that they had a partner in the civilian government. While President Marcos did not specify what this external threat was, the Philippines has been at the forefront of China's maritime expansion in the West Philippine Sea. The Philippines has diplomatically protested China's tactics. The latter has doubled its claim. The Philippines is anticipating the creation of a new regional Coast Guard protocol as tensions in the South China Sea continue to escalate. Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson Rear Admiral Armando Balilo says the ongoing conference of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Coast Guard in Davao City will pave the way for the crafting of such rules of conduct between Coast Guards of member states. According to Balilo, the Asean Coast Guard Forum aims to expand coordination and cooperation among the 10 member states on maritime law enforcement operations against drug trafficking, human smuggling, illegal fishing, piracy, and entry of weapons of mass destruction, among others. The 10 member countries who participated in the 3-day forum are the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam, and Thailand. Meanwhile, PCG Commandant Admiral Ronnie Hill Gavan says the conference is crucial in fostering ASEAN centrality in view of the South China Sea situation, where some member countries, including the Philippines, lay claim to some of the islets within the vast sea. Gavan stresses that this will provide the PCG the opportunity to inspire its fellow Coast Guards in the region towards cooperation in ensuring a safe, secure, and prosperous maritime region based on international law. Apart from China and the Philippines, ASEAN countries such as Brunei, Malaysia, and Vietnam are also claimants of Spratly Islands inside the South China Sea. Despite the overlapping claims, Beijing has been asserting sovereignty in almost the entire South China Sea, including most of the West Philippine Sea, even if it was already invalidated by a July 2016 arbitral award that stemmed from a case filed by Manila in 2013. Several government officials are urging the National Security Council to consider Philippine offshore gaming operators as a threat to the country's safety. Senator Risa Ontiveros says the NSC should raise the matter before President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., as recommended by various government officials during an executive session on Wednesday, June 5, to tackle further suspended Bamban Tarlac Mayor Alice Go's alleged ties to Pogos.
Nung patapos na yung kabuang executive session, isang panawagan sa National Security Council na iangat na kay Presidente itong usapin ng Pogo, no, yung Philippine Offshore Gaming Operations, Pogo bilang national security threat.
Senator Hontiveros says she supports the call and emphasizes that the president can decide on the fate of Pogos even if a Senate panel on the Women's Committee report on the matter remains pending.
Habang hindi pa yan na-actionan, ang executive naman ay pwede ding umaksyon. Kung si presidente mismo ay magsabi na paalisin na natin ang Pogo sa Pilipinas sa loob ng kung ilang buwan, pwede nang magsimulang mangyari yun eh.
Ontiveros further says she hopes the NSC will listen to their call and that Marcos will finally study whether or not Pogos threaten the country's security.
Iniimbestiga na namin ng 4 na taon, ibig sabihin more than 4 years nangyayari ito. More than 4 years sinasagawa yung mga krimeng ito. More than 4 years. Ano pa bang hinihintay natin? Gusto pa ba natin na magpatuloy ito?
House Speaker Martin Romualdez assures the public that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s approval of reduced rice tariff would not result in the flooding of importation. In a press briefing, Romualdez says that rice importation flow will remain the same because the tariff cut is just aimed at absorbing the impact of high rice prices in the world market.
yung pag-import, hindi naman ibabaha. Kasi there's a regular flow of imports. Yung pumapasok na bigas ay sapat lang talaga. Hindi naman ibabaha. Yung ma-adjust lang, yung taripa. So, yung babayaran na, may babawasan lang.
Romualdez adds that the only role of rice importation is to support its shortfall.
The imports come in just to support the shortfall. That's the only role of the imports. And here we are just trying to make sure that the imports, kasi tumas yung world market prices eh. Kaya sinasagpan lang natin sasabihin ng ating presidente kasi tumatas masyado yung world prices para hindi masyadong ma-affected yung local market prices. Binabawasan yung tarifa para to absorb.
Romualdez reiterates that support to farmers would continue as the provision of assistance through the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund would go on. Tariffs required of imported rice are directed into the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund as provided under Republic Act No. 11203 or the Rice Tariffication Law.
Pero tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung suporta natin, yung subsidy sa ating mga local farm producers. They're a very, very important part of the whole sector, the industry. We support them. The subsidies will continue. They are a very, very important part of the agriculture sector, particularly for the rice production.
On Tuesday, Socio-Economic and Development Secretary Arsenio Balisacan said President Marcos approved tariff cuts on rice, coal, and other basic commodities. According to Balisacan, Marcos, who chairs the National Economic and Development Authority Board, approved the new comprehensive tariff program for 2024 to 2028, which calibrates tariff rates until 2028. The World Health Organization says a person in Mexico had died in the first confirmed human case globally of infection with the H5N2 variant of bird flu. According to the World Health Organization, the patient from Mexico died on April 24 after developing fever, shortness of breath, diarrhea, and nausea. WHO adds that the patient had no history of exposure to poultry or other animals and had no multiple underlying medical conditions. The WHO further says the case was the first laboratory-confirmed human case of infection with an influenza A H5N2 virus reported globally. The source of exposure to the virus was unknown, although cases of H5N2 have been reported in the poultry in the country. According to the UN health body, H5N2 cases affected poultry in the state of Michoacan in March, with other outbreaks identified in the state of Mexico. But it adds that establishing a link between the human case and the poultry infections was so far impossible, estimating the risk to people as low. These are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.